This is the Man in Black, here to introduce this weekly half hour of Suspense. Tonight from Hollywood, we bring you as star Mr. Alan Ladd. In the character Mr. Ladd assumes with us tonight, he reveals the thoughts, and through them, the dramatic story of a young man on trial for the crime of murder. And now, with the defense rests, and with the performance of our star, Alan Ladd, as defendant Robert Tasker, supported by John McIntyre as the noted criminal lawyer, Max Kraemer, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
The People versus Robert Tasker. The defendant charged under the indictment with murder in the first degree.
Is counsel for the defense prepared to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
Very well, Mr. Kraemer.
Your Honor, if the court please, I think it's fitting that for a moment I should speak openly to Your Honor and to the jury. The matter which has, albeit indirectly, nonetheless a substantial bearing on this case. I refer, of course, to the rather unique relationship existing between myself and the defendant, Robert Tasker. It's true that my interest in him and in his fate is far greater than the normal interest of a lawyer in his client. It's true that that interest might reasonably be described, as it has been so many times, as fatherly. Yet I ask Your Honor and the gentlemen of the jury to think of me in all fairness and without bias simply as a lawyer defending his client. It needs no expatiation on legal or practical ethics to demonstrate that I did not believe in my...
My name is Robert Tasker. I'm sitting in a courtroom on trial for murder. As Mr. Kraemer, my lawyer, stands there now telling the judge and the jury about me and about him, I can't help thinking that if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here today. And thinking what irony it is, too. Because Mr. Kraemer is the only friend I've ever had in the world. I'm an ex-con. My sentence was for 10 years. After I'd been there about a year, I began to write just short stories, little things. I had lots of time. Finally, I sent one to a magazine. They published it. Mr. Kraemer happened to read it. He wrote to me. Then he came to see me. He remembered my case, and he said he'd try to help me. And one day I was called to the warden's office.
Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mr. Kraemer.
Robert, I've got some good news for you. I've got your parole. You're free. Well, you happy?
Sure, it's just that I still don't quite believe it.
Well, it's official, Tasker. Here are your papers.
Papers. That'll make everything easy, won't it, Warden? Passport to a brilliant future. Ex-con.
Well, Robert, I know it's going to be a little hard to adjust at first, but there's a job in my office that I would like...
Thanks, Mr. Kraemer, but I don't want charity. Even from you.
It isn't charity, Robert. I need a clerk in my office, or I wouldn't have offered you the job. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, but you'll be doing me a favor if you try it.
Well, I guess I owe you at least one favor.
Well, Tasker, goodbye and good luck. Just remember that what's happened up here is water over the dam. Don't hold any grudges.
I don't hold any grudges, Warden. There's one man I hate, that's all.
A man you hate, Robert?
Now, what's the use of kidding about it? His name is Arthur Hines, and I hate him. Simple as that.
Well, forget it, son. Hines was DA then. He was just doing a job, that's all. He had nothing against you.
Yeah, he was doing a job, all right.
Robert, you mustn't feel that way. You'll get along with Hines all right.
Get along with him?
In the office. Didn't I tell you? Arthur Hines is my new partner.
Well, it certainly threw me for a second to hear I was going to work side by side with that. But, well, I figured they were right and that I shouldn't hold grudges, and I made up my mind to play ball. The work wasn't hard, and I was able to do some writing on the side. Mr. Kraemer always encouraged me in that, and Peggy helped me a lot, too. She helped me to believe in myself. All that time, I never saw Mr. Hines. He was out of town or something. And then one day he came back. I was nervous at the idea of seeing him, but I thought I was over my resentment then. He was in his office with someone. He'd come in the private entrance. I was out in the other room with Peggy by the switchboard when I heard the commotion.
You're going to give it to me. No, don't understand English language? No. You're a liar. No, you get out of here. Get out.
Don't give me that, Hines. You've either got it or you
I
know
don't know
who
anything
has.
about it, and I don't want to know. Don't you think I got enough trouble nowadays keeping mugs like you out of the pen without being a fence for what you stole? Now you get out of this office and stay out.
Okay, but I'll be back. $50,000 is a lot of money.
Well, what do you want?
Why,
Robert works here, Mr. Hines.
my name's Robert Tasker. Didn't Mr. Kraemer tell you about me?
I knew I'd seen you before. You're that punk kid I sent up to San Quentin. That was for 10 years. What do you mean you're working here?
Well, Mr. Kraemer got me out. He gave me a job.
Job of what? Snooping outside my office?
I wasn't...
Don't talk back to me, you dirty little jail rat.
Why, you...
Robert, don't!
Come on, let me go.
Hey, what's the trouble here?
Robert, let me go.
Stop it. Now, calm down. What's the matter?
What's the idea of bringing this kid into the office, Mac? Isn't it bad enough to have to work with criminals all day?
Robert's not a criminal. He's here because I want him to be here. Because I believe in him and trust him.
Oh, yeah?
You don't still have anything against Robert, do you?
Well, I just don't like anybody hanging around outside my door when I'm having a private conference, that's all.
Now, look. Robert Tasker is one of the finest, most gifted young people I've ever known. I want him to get along here. And I want him to get along with you, too, Arthur. See?
Me, I can get along with anybody. Well, I gotta be in court.
Wait a minute. Now, shake hands, both of you, will you?
Well, anything to keep peace in the family.
That's fine. Everything forgotten. Start off on a clean slate, right?
Sure. Well, I'll see you later in the afternoon, Max.
Robert, come into my office for a minute, will you?
Sure.
My boy, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know how to begin to apologize.
Why should you apologize?
Oh, it was all my fault. I don't know how I could have been stupid enough not to tell him beforehand, for both your sakes.
I know, but I just don't like him, and he doesn't like me.
No, Robert, you're wrong there. It's just that things have been happening lately to upset him. Like this fellow Marvin and his $50,000.
You know about that?
Well, Robert, you know we have to deal with some peculiar people in this business. There's a poor fellow who's been in prison himself for the last 5 years. He had quite a lot of money when he went in. Oh, he stole it, I guess.
And he thinks Hines hijacked it on him, huh?
If he ever really had it. He says he left it with a pal of his, and later the pal was killed in a gunfight. Galucci, you remember the case.
Yeah, I remember something about it.
Anyway, just before he died, he told somebody he'd left the money with Hines. That's how the story goes. You know how those things travel on the grapevine. It's all nonsense, of course.
That guy meant business just the same.
It probably explains the whole thing. Hines was a little scared. But don't let it worry you, Robert. You will stay, won't you? Believe me, it's for the best.
Well, I've got to trust somebody, I guess.
Trust me, Robert. I've never given you a bum steer, have I?
No. Okay.
That's the spirit. And any other little troubles, you just bring them to me, see?
Thanks. Well, I guess I better relieve Peggy on the board.
Keep your chin up, kid.
Sure. Sorry I kept you waiting, Peggy.
That's all right.
Hey, Peggy, what's the matter?
Please, don't say anything.
Oh, but Peggy, what is it?
Robert, I'm scared.
Of what, Hines? Don't be silly.
No, it's not him.
Well, what is it?
Robert, I shouldn't. But I've got to tell someone.
Well, sure you have. All right, now take it easy. What is it?
I've never told anyone before. Neither Mr. Hines nor Mr. Kraemer know. I'd die if they did. You wouldn't tell anyone, would you?
Well, of course I won't. Come on, spill it.
You saw that man who was in here, who was arguing with Mr. Hines about the $50,000?
Yeah?
Well, it's true. There is $50,000 somewhere.
Yeah? Well, how do you know all this?
I know, and I'm scared. Robert, he's a killer.
That guy? Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but how do you know?
Because he's my own brother.
I had a hunch to lam out of there right then. I knew something was going to happen. But I hated to run out on Peggy when she was in a jam and might need help, and I didn't want to let Mr. Kraemer down either. So I stayed. And one day, about 2 weeks later, it came. I hadn't had any more trouble with Hines. He was out of town most of the time anyway. He was still out of town that day. The day that he died.